The Grasslands pack has arrived, and with it came a new animal for the otherwise finished Sahara and the Nile area here in the Drylands, which of course is the striped hyena. So we are going to adjust the existing landscape here, but we'll make use of the bridge and water as it is. Part of the inspiration for this habitat comes from the striped hyena exhibit in Tierpark Berlin in Germany. I was lucky enough to go there myself this summer. But of course, my zoo here is placed in the North American desert, so it will end up having a very different feel to it than the one in Berlin. And as it often is with this park, I have also found some inspiration from the living desert in California, even though I could not find a lot of pictures from their striped hyena enclosure. As mentioned, this is being built as part of the Sahara and the Nile area of the zoo, which were done a few months ago. If you are not familiar with this section or you need to get it refreshed, then I'll put a link to the full tour of this specific area in the description. Then you should be able to see how this connects with the whole area. The speed build part of the video today will mainly focus around the main public part of the hyenas area. I have also made a backstage part with some smaller areas for separation, but the building process for this was not very straightforward. Building backstage areas is not what I got the most experience with, but I do want to get more into it from time to time. But since I did not have a full plan for what I wanted to do with it, the building of it got a little messy for the recording, so at some point I decided to build the backstage off camera, since it's a little easier to test ideas and designs when you don't have to care about the editing afterwards. So I'm sorry for not letting you be a part of that process, but I don't think it would have ended up as something that would be very enjoyable to watch anyway. It is not really often I do backstage if the building is completely closed off, so this was more like a practice for me. I'll still put a few shots from it at the end of the video, and then hopefully I can do a better backstage building video in the future. The public enclosure we are building now is quite a typical zoo display, I believe. When you're standing on the bridge, you're separated from the animals by a moat with water. Then we got a natural looking wall in the back, and to the left we got a slightly more thematic wall which offers a more up close look into the area through glass. So this is not really anything spectacular, but I kinda wanted to start off the Grasslands pack with something a bit basic. The plans I have for most of the species in this pack are probably going to be a bit more complicated and creative. I don't really know that much about husbandry for striped hyenas in real life, but since they can live in pairs, I assume it should be possible to have one large main area for them. As part of the backstage, I did add a small separation enclosure as well as a small pen for each individual. This way there is both room to separate the animals and keep them apart in case of complications. And it's also possible for the keepers to get them out of the big enclosure so they can enter it safely, at least from a realistic point of view. The keepers in this game couldn't really care less. I just want to point out a few things that will end up looking a bit different from what you will see being built through the video. Overall, the walls and background used as barriers in this habitat I ended up making higher afterwards, since when I moved in the animals it ended up looking a bit unsafe. Underneath the bridge I also made a solid wall on the side facing this habitat, since there otherwise was only a mess between the hyenas and the zebras and Nile leadways on the other side of the bridge, which seemed like that might be a bit unsafe and stressful for the hoofstock species. I also added a small custom sign for the striped hyenas in the same style as the rest of the signs in this part of the zoo. I'm a little behind on making signs for most of the park, but I wanted to make sure this area down here still felt complete when this new addition was done. Therefore I prioritized making a sign for this straight ahead. Some minor adjustments to the foliage and guest areas has also been made afterwards to make it all look as good as possible, but you can see that for yourself in the end of the video. The foliage is done like the rest of this part of the zoo, a big part of North American native plants with some imported African plants in between to make it feel a bit more exotic. I also made use of some of the new grass, which is really great for detailing the ground. The striped hyenas have really grown on me. At first I didn't care that much about their inclusion, since I tend to be rather skeptical about the need for more medium to large sized carnivores in this game, but I must admit they feel like they add something quite different to the carnivore lineup in Planet Zoo. Part of the reason for this might be that the spotted hyena from the base game got a really bad model, so it almost feels like the striped hyena is the first hyena, since the spotted hyena looks so bad that you kind of end up forgetting about it. And the striped hyena here ended up having a really great model, like the rest of the animals from this pack. A shout out to those people who reacted to the first picture we saw of it. I didn't think it looked that bad before, but with these changes they did to the face, I think it is now among the best carnivore models in the game. So thank you to Frontier for taking in the feedback from the community. Hopefully that won't be the last time. We still need to see something done to that tapir. This wall here will lead into the backstage and separation areas. This is the part that I did not include in the speed build, but you'll get to see a bit of it now in the cinematic shots.